Once, in a quiet village nestled at the base of a majestic mountain range, lived a young man named Marco. At 24, Marco appeared healthy and strong, but inside he was crumbling. He was a prisoner of his own mind. His thoughts were a relentless storm that never settled. While his body was in the village, his mind was always somewhere else, trapped in the bitter regrets of the past or paralyzed by the dark fears of the future. Because of this constant mental noise, Marco had lost the simple joys of life. He had forgotten how to smile from his heart. Every night, as he lay in bed, his mind would replay old conversations and mistakes, keeping him awake until dawn. Even the breathtaking beauty of the mountains felt like a heavy burden to him. He was constantly exhausted, not from physical labor, but from the immense weight of overthinking every detail of his existence. Rumors began to circulate in Marco's village about a wise old man who lived in a secluded cottage high in the hills. People said he was once a world-renowned psychologist in a bustling city, but had left everything behind to find peace in nature. He was known as the healer of souls. Marco, desperate for a way out of his mental prison, decided that he must seek this man's help, hoping the master could finally silence the chaos in his head. The trek to the master's cottage was long and physically demanding. Marco climbed steep paths and crossed icy streams, but his mind remained cluttered with doubt. What if he can't help me? What if I am beyond repair? He thought. After 3 days of traveling, he finally reached a small, ivy-covered house. On the porch sat an old man, his eyes closed, looking as calm as the morning mist. Marco approached the old man and fell to his knees. "Master," he pleaded, his voice trembling, "my mind is a cage of thorns. I am tired of living in yesterday's pain and tomorrow's uncertain. I have tried everything, but I cannot find peace. Please, teach me how to be still." The old man slowly opened his eyes, which shone with deep wisdom and compassion, and gave Marco a gentle smile. The master did not offer a long lecture or a complicated philosophical theory. Instead, he stood up and went inside his cottage. He returned with a simple glass and filled it to the very brim with clear water. He handed it to Marco. "Walk through the entire village below and return to me," the master commanded. "But there is one strict condition. If you spill even a single drop of water, I will not be able to help." Marco was surprised. He expected a meditation technique, not a physical task. However, he accepted the challenge. He held the glass with both hands, his heart racing. He noticed that the water was so full that even a slight tremor in his fingers caused it to ripple. To keep the water still, he realized he had to make his entire body and breath perfectly steady. He began his walk, moving with a level of care he had never practiced before. As Marco descended into the village, he found it to be full of distractions. It was market day. Children were shrieking with laughter as they played tag, merchants were shouting their prices, and heavy carts were clattering over the cobblestone. Stray dogs barked at his heels, and people accidentally bumped into him. Normally, this chaos would have made Marco angry, frustrated, or anxious about what people thought of him. But today, Marco had no room for irritation. He couldn't afford to look away from the glass. If he turned his head to yell at a dog, the water would tilt. If he focused on the crowd's judgment, his hands would shake. His entire universe had shrunk down to the diameter of that glass and the steady placement of his next step. He was perfectly aware of the ground beneath his feet and the liquid in his hand. After hours of walking through the chaos, Marco climbed back up the hill to the master's cottage. His shirt was soaked with sweat from the sheer mental effort, but he was triumphant. He held out the glass. It was still perfectly full to the brim. Not a single drop had been lost. "I did it, master," he whispered, feeling a strange sense of accomplishment he hadn't felt in years. The master took the glass and set it on a wooden table. "Tell me, Marco," he said calmly, "while you were in the village, did you see the colorful banners hanging in the market? Did you hear the beautiful songs the children were singing by the fountain? Did you notice the fragrance of the blooming jasmine?" Marco shook his head slowly. "No, master. I saw and heard nothing but the water. I had no time to think of anything else." The master nodded. "Exact. When you were focused on the glass, where were your past regrets? Where were your fears of the future?" Marco paused, a look of profound realization washing over his face. "They weren't there," he replied softly. "I wasn't thinking about them at all. I was only—" The master explained that the mind is like that glass of water. When we let our attention wander into the past or future, we tilt our mind and spill our peace. "Peace is not something you find in a quiet place," the old man said gently. "It is what happens when you bring your mind to the present moment." The village was noisy. The dogs were barking and the people were pushing. But because you were fully engaged in the now, the external noise could not enter your internal world. You were quiet because your focus was singular. Marco realized that his suffering was caused by his mind trying to be in three places at once: the past, the present, and the future. By forcing his mind to be in only one place, the present, he had inadvertently found the silence he had been searching. The master told him that the glass of water was a metaphor for his life. Every moment is a drop of water that must be handled with presence and care. Marco stayed with the master for several more days. He didn't study books. Instead, he practiced carrying the glass in everything he did. When he ate his meals, he focused entirely on the taste and texture of the food. When he swept the porch, he focused on the movement of the broom. He learned that life only truly happens in the present. To worry about what is gone or what is yet to come is to waste the only life we actually have. When it was time for Marco to return to his own village, the change in him was visible. His eyes were bright, his shoulders were relaxed, and his smile had finally returned. He was no longer a ghost of him. He understood that the mountains were still there, and life would still bring challenges, but he now possessed the tool to handle them. He knew how to bring his wandering mind back home. Back in his village, people noticed the difference. Marco still had responsibility